if you're on a platform, there might be a reader out there on Facebook or TikTok who wants to see your content and they just don't. If they're subscribed to your email, if they want to see your content, it's sitting there in their inbox and they can open it and click on it whenever they want. And so we're big believers in email marketing as being the most powerful form of digital marketing still.
Welcome to the Written Word Podcast, the podcast for authors who want to build a successful writing career. I am Farrell Vernon, and I'm here with Ricky Woolman, and this is the Written Word Media Pod.
Hey, everyone, and welcome to the Written Word Pod, the podcast for authors who want to build successful writing careers. I'm Farrell Vernon here with Ricky Woolman, and today we are tackling email promos. We're going to go through what an email promo is, break down all the details, and really get into it. How you doing, Ricky?
Great. Happy to be here today, Farrell, and very excited about this topic.
Yeah. This is something near and dear to our heart as Written Word Media. Really got its start with email promos and is still a huge part of what we do, although it's no longer the only thing that we do. But let's start about, really setting the table and doing a definition. So what is an email promo, and, who cares?
Yeah, I think I'm going to start with a little bit of our genesis story so authors understand the context in which email promos were born, which was probably around 11, 12 years ago at this point. But my background is in digital marketing, and at the time I was running a digital marketing agency. This was right when Facebook and social media was becoming a thing. And my mom had written a book and had published it direct right about then. Kindle Direct Publishing was fairly new. And I was helping her with some of the marketing. And one of the things that we tried was to set her book free as a way to get it out there as a marketing tactic, because free is one of the most powerful marketing tactics out there. And so we had set her book for free on KDP. And was super excited and started to watch what would happen on her free day. And absolutely nothing happened. She did not get any free downloads. And we were disappointed, but I was mostly just really surprised because I was stumped by the fact that this book is out there for free. Why is no one grabbing it? And it turns out that whether your book is free or 99 cents or $9.99 or $99, you have the same problem, which is just being on Amazon at a certain price point. Nobody really knows that you're out there. You're competing with millions of other books and titles. And unless someone's specifically going to look for it, it's really hard to get any visibility for that book. So I started thinking about, okay, well, how do we create visibility for this? And as I said, right then, Facebook was fairly new. You could create a brand page, was all the buzz. So I created a brand page called Free Booksy, and I started selecting a free book a day and building the audience on that Facebook page to see if that would be a way to start directing traffic to these free books on Amazon. Because at the time, there were plenty of free books available on a daily basis, but it wasn't just my mom. Other authors were having the same problem. Just having a free book out there wasn't really doing much. And back then, you could get a lot of fans really cheaply. And every time you posted on Facebook, all your fans saw your posts. So it was a magical time. And once we started getting an audience of, a couple thousand people, we'd post a book and that book would shoot up the charts on Amazon, because now people were seeing the book, traffic was being driven to the book on Amazon, and downloads were happening. But, nothing good lasts forever. And Facebook started throttling the reach of those organic posts. And we realized pretty quickly that in order to make this sustainable, we would have to move to a different type of marketing platform. And email marketing was something that was really controllable. You weren't at the whims of a social media platform. So we started porting all of our users from Facebook onto email. And that process was started around 10 years ago. And now all of our focus is on having an audience on email. And similar to how we used to do it on Facebook, by putting the book in front of users who are on Facebook on any given day, now we send an email to readers every single day. They see that book, and that drives a ton of traffic over to Amazon.
Yeah, I think, the story is so important for people to understand, because we didn't build the company exactly to what it is today without listening to the authors and figuring out what we need to do to sell books for them. And I want to just circle back to something that you said that I think is really important, because there's a reason why written word media uses email as its primary way to drive action for authors and not Facebook and social. And you said Facebook is throttling the organic reach. So can you talk a little bit about what does it mean to throttle, and what are the differences between, promoting something on Facebook versus promoting something in an email?
Yeah, so on Facebook or TikTok or any of these social platforms, although you may have an audience or a following, you actually aren't guaranteed to reach those people every time that you post. When people say throttling, it just means that, say you have 1,000 fans on Facebook and you post something, maybe only 100 of them will see it. That's only 10%, right? So Facebook is throttling your reach by not allowing all 1,000 of your users to see that post. Now, when it comes to email marketing, you have much more control. If you have 1,000 readers on your email list and you send that email to 1,000 readers, all 1,000 readers will get that email in their inbox. And some percentage of them are going to open that email. It's going to be a much higher percentage than you get on social. And the choice is the readers, not the platforms. That's the big difference. So if you're on a platform, there might be a reader out there on Facebook or TikTok who wants to see your content and they just don't. If they're subscribed to your email, if they want to see your content, it's sitting there in their inbox and they can open it and click on it whenever they want. And so we're big believers in email marketing as being the most powerful form of digital marketing still. It's not, the sexiest because it's been around for decades. And people think, oh, does it still really work? Do I really need to do email marketing? And the short answer is yes, absolutely. Email marketing is super powerful. We'll have another pod all about email marketing and how it all works. But at its heart, the promos that we run are dependent on email marketing. And the reason that the promos that we run, and we'll talk about what we do, and we'll talk about, email promos in general, because there are other people who provide the service, but they're successful because we build audience. So you need to be getting readers onto that list and keeping that list really fresh with engaged readers in order to see the results on your book.
Yeah, I think that's really important for people to understand. And, there's this common misconception that isn't everybody on TikTok now? Isn't everybody on this? And the sort of game that's played is, on TikTok and some of the social platforms, you can quote unquote go viral. Now, the dirty secret that they don't want you to know is that a tiny fraction of percent of people actually go viral. The overwhelming majority of people simply post into the ether, and then they have this throttling thing that they have to combat. Whereas email marketing and email promos are far more reliable and direct and, permission based. If somebody just whacks a little thumbs up icon or a heart icon on a social platform, they're not really indicating as much interest as when we've actually had an ad or something that we've talked to the reader and the reader has said, I really want to receive these emails and here are the genres that I like. So it's a much higher value reader that you're reaching through an email newsletter service like ours versus something on social.
Yeah, and I think it's important to talk about the mechanics of how promos work. So, we run promo sites. There are other promo sites out there, but fundamentally they all function the same way, which is readers sign up to a list. For us, it might be FreeBooksy or BargainBooksy. For some of the others out there, which also happen to be our partners, it might be Fussy Librarian or eReader IQ or one of those. But how it works is a reader will come to FreeBooksy, say, and they'll input in their information. So let's just say, Farrell's a reader. He comes to FreeBooksy and he'll say, hey, here's my email address. I like to read on a Kindle and I'm into sci-fi and fantasy. So that information then gets pulled into our system. So we know that Farrell likes sci-fi fantasy and he wants free books on a Kindle. And then that's one half of the equation. The second half of the equation is then an author. Let's say I'm an author. So Ricky comes along and I say, hey, I'm a sci-fi author. My book's going to be free next Wednesday. And I go to FreeBooksy and I say, hey, I'd love my sci-fi book to be in FreeBooksy next Wednesday. I put all the information in. I pay whatever the price is for that. And then next Wednesday, the FreeBooksy email goes out. It has Ricky, the author's sci-fi book in it. And Farrell gets that email and he only sees free sci-fi books in that email. Generally, he'll see anywhere from 1 to 4 sci-fi books in that email. And then as a reader, it's highly relevant to him. He opens it, he clicks, he downloads the book. So in many respects, it's a kind of a perfect one-for-one matching system between the author's works and genre and the reader who's very much interested in those works and genre.
Yeah. So I think that's great, but let's focus a little bit more on the author's perspective, right? So an author's basically understands how this thing works. Email is great. It's going to actually drive sales. How do they pick the right promo? How do they select when this is the right time to run a promo? Let's talk through the author experience of, okay, let's say there's somebody out there listening who's never run an email promo. What do they do next? And how do they actually execute one well?
Yeah, so promo is short for promotion. So traditionally, authors will run a promo or a promotion when you're doing something special around your price. So most promos and most promo sites require you to have some kind of special price. Generally, the buckets are free. You could be putting your book for free. The reason that free is one of the buckets is because, as we talked about, free is really powerful. But if you are in KDP Select, part of their exclusive program, you do get up to 5 free days every 90 days. So you get up to 5 free days every quarter. And you can set whatever date you want your book to be free. So if you're going to run a free promotion, you're going to drop your price to free for some number of days. That's one bucket. The second bucket is on a price discount. Generally, 99 cents is kind of the best practice, universal discounted price that most promo sites will accept. Our properties will go all the way up to $4.99. So if you're dropping your price to 99 cents, $1.99, $2.99, $3.99, or $4.99, you can run a promo on them. Many of the other promo sites out there will only let you run a 99-cent promo. And those are the two big buckets. You're either running something free or you're running something at a lower price. Your price doesn't necessarily need to be dropped. So let's just say you have a first in free series where your book is permanently free. You can still run a promo on that whenever you want to. Or let's say your book is permanently priced at 99 cents. You can run a promo at that price as well. You don't necessarily have to price drop it, but a lot of authors do, or a lot of authors who have these price points already have some kind of cadence where they say, I'm going to promote this book every 3 to 6 months.
Yeah. Okay. So this is really important. Let's take a little time and talk about this. We get this question all the time, and you can go back and listen to some of our inbound mail pods that we do when authors ask questions. But one of our most common questions is how often to run an email promo, right? And we know for authors that are in KDP Select, there's some restrictions on doing those free promos or those countdown deals. But in general, like, how often should I run one of these email promos?
Yeah, I think in general, running a promo on a specific title once every 90 days is pretty much best practice for a couple reasons. One, when you run a promo, you are going to get some algorithmic lift in your rankings, and that will last some period of time. The second is that if you're using promo sites, you want to allow the promo sites time to replenish their reader pool. Otherwise, you're not going to get the best return on your investment, because if you put the same book in front of the same audience and they've already bought it, they can't really buy it again. So we recommend every 90-ish days. We actually won't allow you to promote within a 30-day period. We very aggressively continue to build our lists, but we have done the math to make sure that authors are getting a really great return. So you can't promote the same title within a 30-day period. But that doesn't mean, even if you're doing one title every 90 days, it doesn't mean you can't be promoting other titles. So successful authors generally are promoting at least one title a month, but they have a schedule of rotation where they're not promoting the same title within a 90-day period. And that helps to keep your Amazon rank strong, your readers engaged, and to get your marketing flywheel turning for you.
Yeah, I think that's really important for people to understand, is like the cadence. And, it's interesting because we have authors that we talk to all the time, and some of them, we give them that advice, right? Because we say this is based on tens of thousands of authors that we worked with over the years. So we have really good data on what works and what doesn't. But then there's authors who promote like every 31 days the same title, right? That just right on the edge of our limit. And they're really, really successful, right? And then there are other authors who do a much deeper discount and they promote once or twice a year. So I think like the mix is really important to you and your books and how everything works for you in your author career and what you have time for. I think that every 90 days, if you're looking for like, hey, what's the best practice? What's the thing I can do that's going to give me the most bang for my buck? It really does work pretty well. And so, every book, every 90 days, that can really help you build out your schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, we definitely advocate for testing and seeing what works for you. You're absolutely right that we have authors who every exactly 31 days they promote a book and they get great results and they're super happy with it. So that can work. And we have other authors who take longer breaks between titles. So you do what works for you. The best practice is, it's a benchmark. It's something that is a stake in the ground that you can use to anchor yourself. But if you find something that's working, keep doing it. Don't change it just because you've listened to this pod and we're telling you something different.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, right? So Let's double down here and talk about running a lot of promos at once. So obviously this is called a promo stack. And at Written Word Media, we have a product called Promo Stacks that helps you do this. But before we get into our product, let's just talk about what a promo stack is, how it works, and then really why it works, because it is something that's really cool and really unique about our industry that you can do these kinds of things.
Yeah, so I'm going to do a history lesson here again.
Let's do it.
This has changed over time. So 10 years ago, if you did a one-day promo, whether it was free or discounted, you would get a ton of sales, ton of downloads. You would see a really nice spike, and the algorithms, mostly Amazon at this point, because back 10 years ago, they were the biggest real player. Today, Google and Apple are in there as well. But 10 years ago, when you did that, Amazon would really reward you. They would see this huge spike in sales. They would be like, oh my gosh, this book is hot. And the algorithm would help to push your book to readers across the platform. And you would see this really long tail of sales after having a one-day spike. Fast forward, that probably lasted, some authors can correct me here, 3 to 5 years, something like that, where the one-day spike was really great. And then at some point, Amazon decided they didn't like that kind of activity anymore. And they basically changed the algorithm to not punish per se, but to dampen the effect of a one-day spike. And so authors started seeing this and realized, okay, we don't want one big one-day spike. Really what the algorithm likes now is a spike followed by some higher sales days, either before or after that spike. And that gave rise to what we now call the promo stack. So the way this would work is you would, if you had done a free Booksy, you're going to get this huge spike. There's just no way around it. So you would run a free Booksy, but then you would put other activity on either side of it. And that activity could be sending an email to your list because you're going to get a bump there. It could be purchasing a promo with another promo site that's out there. And that's really what promo stacking is. It means stacking multiple marketing activities clustered around a 3 to 5 day period.
Got it. Yeah. And so I think, what's really important to understand for authors is not that you shouldn't have a big spike. That still works great, right? Showing a lot of marketing activity, everybody does marketing, that's fine. But the smoothing it out, having more marketing over longer periods of times, it has slowly become more rewarded than just having a singular focus of activity. And I think it's really important also to think about this from the reader's perspective. Okay, so if you're a reader-centric author, which is something we talk about all the time, and we encourage authors to think about, that's at the end of the day, that's your customer, is your reader. If a reader sees something in 2 or 3 different places, it triggers some psychology that, hey, this book is popular right now, right? And whether or not they consciously know that or not, seeing something in a few places, you're like, oh, wow, something's going on. And this is the same concept that you see if you've ever visited New York City. You'll see advertising on the subway, right? And then you'll see it on billboards and you'll see it in cabs. And so big companies coordinate this marketing so you see things in lots of different places at once. And what that makes you feel is oh, wow, this thing is really popular right now. Something's happening. And so by promo stacking, you can actually drive that behavior very easily so that readers see your book in a few different places. And I think sometimes a misconception that authors can have is oh, am I duplicating effort? Do I really need to do that? But it's kind of a 1 + 1 is 3 situation where by showing your book in a bunch of different places a reader's going to be like, oh, wow, this book like is on fire right now. Like I should maybe check this out.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And this is, trad publishers are really good at this. In marketing, it's called the law of seven, which is the belief that you need to have at least 7 impressions on a product or a book before a reader is going to make a purchasing decision. And, trad publishers within traditional media, they are the ones who are buying, the New York Times ad pages. They're putting it on the bus. They're putting it on the Barnes and Noble posters in the window. So that's exactly the idea behind promo stacking, is that you get this kind of halo effect where you get the 1 + 1 = 3, but you also are really conducting best practice marketing for the digital algorithms as well.
That's right. Yeah. And so now let's talk about our promo stack product and exactly how it works, because, we see trend, right? So at Written Word Media, we look at what's happening in the market. We talk to authors all the time. We meet authors at conferences. We read the emails that they send us, which, send us an email. We'll read it. I think sometimes people think, oh, it's like this big, huge company, but like actually it's just Ricky and I and a couple of, wonderful people. And if you write us, we will respond to you. But, our product was based on hearing that from authors, right? Hearing what they wanted and building promo stacks to actually do this behavior for them. So Ricky, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about like how it works for the authors that haven't heard of it before.
Yeah, no, I'm loving this. This is all like a trip down memory lane for me because promo stacks became really popular. But the challenge with promo stacks is that it was really time consuming to coordinate all of this marketing activity over a 3 to 5 day period, because you had to make sure that you were going to send out maybe the email that you're sending out. And then generally what authors would do is they would pick at least 1 or 2 of the larger promo sites and then cluster around promos from some of the medium to smaller promo sites. But what that means is that you were potentially going to 3, 4, 5, 6 different websites, selecting different dates, and then waiting. Our system allows you to see availability right away. Some systems on other promo sites, you don't have that luxury. You kind of apply for a date, and then it might take a couple days or a week to find out if you get that date. So you might try and set up this beautiful 5-day promo stack only to get an email back to see that you now have a hole on day 4, but days 1, 2, 3, and 5 are looking okay. And authors talk to us about this a lot and complain to us about it a lot. And so we started thinking, like, how could we help here? And, it's a small industry. Everyone in the industry is trying to help authors. And so we thought, well, what if we partnered up with the other promo sites that authors were using and made that inventory available on our website so you could see right away what was available. And with basically one click of a button, you could build a 1, 3, 5 day promo stack, but still get on all the sites, not just Written Word Media properties, but other properties as well. And so, Farrell's the technologist here. He's the one who built such a seamless user checkout experience. And he figured out, thank you, Farrell, how to make this work and how to bring partners on board and make sure that the dates they gave us are available. And so how it works now is if you're an author, you can come to our website and you can select a promo stack in your genre that will span not just Written Word Media properties, but properties outside of Written Word Media. They'll also do things like if you want to run Facebook ads in parallel to your promos, the promo stack will do that as well. And all the promo stacks, they are pre-packaged. So as an author, you'd come in, and again, if Farrell's the author, he would say, hey, I want to run a 5-day science fiction promo stack. We have a great filtering system, and then he can see all the different promo stacks are available, and he would pick one. And then when you go and schedule, you can see, okay, I'm running a free book. Day 1 is going to be a free Booksy. Day 1 to 5 is a Reader Reach Facebook ad. Day 2 is on Fussy Librarian. Day 3 is on, who are some of our other partners we got on there?
Did you say Book Barbarian we have?
Yeah, Book Barbarian, who's sci-fi specific. And then we'll do the logic in the background to make sure that it all works out. And so on checkout, you can see exactly where you're going to run on any given day. You will pay one price. We work with the partners to make sure that they're getting all that information. And it's been a really great innovation, I think, for authors. It's saved authors a ton of time. So it's been a really gratifying product for us to put together, even though I know there was some, hoop jumping on the back end to figure out how to make it work.
Yeah. Yeah. It was not easy to execute, but I think that's not anything that authors need to worry about. Our job is to do the hard so that it's easy for you. Right. And I think the analogy that I used when I was trying to explain this when we were building is really like, think about a grocery store. Right. And, before you'd have to go to a butcher, to get your meat or your fish or whatever, go to a baker, right? You go to a dairy place and you get all these things together and you have to go lots of different places and you come home and you have a really good elements for a meal. Right. But then what happened is a grocery store cut deals with all these people, right? They got the meat counter and this, and they brought them all into one place. And it's incredibly convenient, right? And we did the same thing with promo sites out there, but bringing it to authors so that you can really come to one place, get all the promos that you need, stack them together. You can do it with one checkout. And that was really important to us when we were talking to authors and we were building the product. The original incarnation, we're like, well, what if we just made it easy for you to like pick your own, right? And build your own thing. And then, really, as we talked to authors, what we realized is like, that's not really what they wanted. What they wanted was to be able to like hit a few buttons and have the whole thing taken care of. And then we're like, okay, so now we have to build that. But that's what we built. And it's worked out great. We've gotten incredible feedback. We really feel like we have, right now we have 10 partners, we'll add a few more this year, but we really have, the best promo sites out there all under one roof. And it's really all in service of making it more convenient for authors.
Yeah, it's really great. And I know we're coming up on time, but the one thing I would want to reiterate in today's episode is that running promos and running promo stacks, it's really the most foundational marketing tactic that you can do that's going to give you a great return on your investment for very little time. So running promos and then setting up your own email list, like those are the two marketing tactics that are critical if you want to build a successful author business, and feel very lucky to be able to help with the former. And we're building products that are helping with the latter as well, and building up your own email list as well, because we know how powerful email is, and we really do think that it's worth doubling down on.
Yeah. And also, before we close, I'll just share one story from an interaction I had with an author a few months ago that I met in person at a conference. And I was talking about our services and how it works, some of the things that we've just been talking about. And they had a few ideas about things that they wanted to do to promote their book. And they were talking about, what if I did like a buy one, get one? And I did this kind of like special delivery. And then afterwards, I followed up with this. And, they spent about 2 or 3 minutes explaining this marketing technique that they were going to use. And, I paused a little bit because everybody's path, everybody's journey is different, right? And I said, that's fine. And that sounds really cool, but how much time is that going to take you to do? And they kind of went through it and, they hadn't really thought about it. But once they sort of said, it was going to be, a couple of hours every week for the sort of 2.5 weeks that they had planned to do this. And I said, you can probably buy a promo stack with us in 2 or 3 minutes. And I was like, I'm not selling you on this, but just how do you want to spend your time? And they were quiet for a moment. And then they were kind of like, thank you for telling me that, like for pointing that out. And I think I say that not because to say our product is so amazing, but because sometimes it can be a lonely endeavor, right? And having somebody just sort of talk to you about like, hey, there is an easy way to do this. Like, yes, you have to pay a little money. Our products are not free for the most part, but like you said, it's foundational. And in terms of like the number of minutes that you've invested versus the return that you get, we really believe that there just isn't a way to do better than promos and promo stacking. And that's really what we believe and why we built what we've built.
Yeah. On that note, what I will say though, is you do want to make sure that you are picking reputable promo sites. Yeah. And Reedsy actually has a really great directory where they list a bunch of promo sites and what the reach is. The important thing about picking a promo is that you want the cost to be commensurate with the reach and the results. So the biggest promo site out there is BookBub. It's a really large promo site. It has the most number of readers, but the cost for a promo is pretty steep because it's commensurate with reaching millions of readers. So you're spending hundreds or thousands of dollars. Our promos tend to be start at like $25 and go up from there. But we price our promos specifically to the return that we think authors are going to get. So on average, we're trying to get authors to at least break even or be positive ROI on the promos that they're running. And then the partners that we pick, we vet very much for quality to make sure that they're, reputable and going to give great results. So if it's not, BookBub or us or one of our partners, just make sure that you take a look at their audience numbers, ask some questions like, what if I don't get the results that I want? What kind of results can I expect? To make sure that you're, giving your hard-earned money to a place that's going to actually give you a good result. Generally, if it sounds too good to be true, it is. So if someone tells you, it's going to be $10 and I'm going to sell 300 copies of your book, if that exists, let us know, but it probably isn't. And so generally, the cost should reflect the value that you're getting back.
Yeah, and I think that's important to note. And the Reezy list is a great list, but also you can be sure when you buy from us, all of the promo sites that we have been vetted. And what I mean by vetted is literally I have talked to the owner or the founder of the company. They've had to go through 2 meetings where I grill them on their techniques, how they treat authors, how they acquire their list. And I make sure that they're really reputable companies and that they're going to, serve our authors well. So it's just important to know that like we do all that work for you when you're picking a promo off of Written Word Media. But, our product is certainly not the only product out there. And, if you go outside, that's great. But like you said, make sure you pick somewhere that's reputable.
Yeah, I would say not only that. So within the properties that we have, every month we look at the number of clicks that authors are getting per genre, and we make sure that those clicks are stable or rising and are, again, reflective of how much we're charging. And then before we bring promo partners onto our platform, we actually test titles. So if you're a gold or platinum member with us, you get emails and say, hey, we're testing a new partner. We'd love to put your book onto their platform for free so you can report back on the results. And we test their lists and make sure that our premium members think that the results are good before we'll actually bring them onto the platform.
Got it. Okay. All right. That's a good place, I think, for us to pause. Great
I could talk about
today.
This all day. There's like a million other things. So we might have to do a part 2 on promos.
There's people out there that like eat, live, and breathe promos. We are those people,
Yes.
But not everybody is. So I think let's wrap the pod. Great discussion today. I am Farrell Vernon here with Ricky Woolman. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week. And until then, may your words flow and may your readers grow.